At first sight, a bombed building looks a hopeless mess. It's a puzzle to know where to begin rescue work. In this film, a party will show you how the problem should be tackled. To make things clear, the work has been done under exercise conditions. General debris clearance is the method you use when you don't know exactly where the missing people are. But before you try this, you must go through the first 4 stages of rescue. First stage, the leader makes his reconnaissance of the site. He discovers what the building was and whether it presents any special problems and difficulties. He finds out how many people are missing and, if he can, their whereabouts. Second stage, immediate rescue of those whose positions are known. This may mean tunneling under the debris. Third stage, places where persons are likely to shelter are explored. For example, cellars, shelters, and spaces under the staircase. Fourth stage, selected debris clearance. For instance, anyone who happened to be on this floor when it was hit might have rolled down and been buried under the pile of debris at the bottom. This finishes the first 4 stages of rescue, but according to the reconnaissance, there is still one casualty, a woman, missing. You might think that no one could be alive here, but people have been rescued from worse places than this. So long as a casualty is missing, the search must go on. It is this final stage of rescue with which this film deals. Stage 5, debris clearance. Debris clearance cannot be carried out just anyhow. The last thing you want is to have each man picking away at this rubble on his own with no relation to what the others are doing. So here is a method that can be used for nearly all bombed buildings. Say this drawing represents the ruins. We know that a woman is buried here somewhere, but have no idea exactly where she is. We could, of course, begin clearing at one end. But since most of the building is enclosed by walls that are still standing, a party of 7 to 10 men would only get in each other's way if they all tried to work on that narrow face of debris. So the leader decides, first of all, to open up the job by clearing a lane straight through the building. In this case, the lane will run from the open end across to the other side. The debris cleared from the far side needn't be carried back to the open end. It can be dumped out through the windows on that side. Once the lane is made, the party can be spread along it with plenty of room to work. And then the lane can be progressively widened so that the whole building is systematically cleared until the casualty is found. That's a good general method on which to begin the job. And now you can see the party working on the lane. Here are some points about handling the debris itself. The small debris can be shoveled into bins, but when you have to use your hands for the bricks and larger pieces, you wear these special gloves to protect yourself from splinters and nails and bits of glass. Goggles keep the grit out of your eyes. Bins are good for carrying debris, but where it's possible to use them, wheelbarrows are better. Notice how the debris is dumped well away from the building. A new party taking over couldn't mistake that for unturned debris and waste time looking through it again. Here's a good way of marking debris that can't be dumped outside the building. The whitewashed boards mean that this place has already been searched. Here you see how a swinging derrick can be used to get debris out where the site is not open at the sides. The idea is to arrange the work so that no one need walk on the debris. That's vitally important. This pest is called the debris crawler. You might easily kill the casualty if she's trapped underneath. Here's another thing that must be stopped. The casualty might be lying hidden just below the surface, and that pick would injure her. The leader quite rightly tells the man off. Be careful about pulling bricks out at random. Sometimes one brick supports a whole mountain of debris. Many problems arise as the work progresses. Beams of wood that are held at one end must not be pulled straight out, however much they're in the way. For all we know, the casualty may be hidden underneath. The leader orders the men to strut up this beam so that it doesn't fall while the debris is worked out around it. The strut must not rest on debris, so the men clear away underfoot until they find a solid floor. The length needed for the strut can easily be measured with 2 pieces of wood, like this. The material for the strut must be a good, strong piece of timber obtained from the site. You've probably noticed that the leader doesn't do any manual work. That's not because he's lazy, but because he has to be free to supervise the job as a whole and to deal with special problems as soon as they crop up. When the strut is firmly in position, the debris can be cleared away round the beam. Here's a slightly different problem. 2 or 3 joists sticking out. Looks like part of a wooden floor. The men have fixed a cross piece of wood to support the joist. Now they're jacking it up to see what's underneath. The golden rule is pack as you jack. This is how the packing is done, with wooden struts. Blocks make up the height, and wedges make the whole job firm. The jack is free to be used elsewhere, and the job can be explored. From time to time, as the work goes on, you'll discover small voids in the debris. This one is caused by a radiator, which is holding up the girder and the concrete floor above it. The radiator, the natural strut, should not be disturbed, but extra support must be given before the gap can be enlarged and the void made safe to enter. Then the void must be well explored for signs of the casualty in it or near it. The work's been going on for some time now, and still the casualty is not found. This man is sifting some of the debris near where the bomb exploded, in case any small traces can be seen. If any handling has to be done on this particular job, rubber gloves should be worn to keep out infection. Now at last the casualty has been found. Here she is represented by a dummy. The leader is called at once. He tells the men to use great care when working close to the casualty, not to use picks or shovels, but to clear all the debris around the body by hand. The first and most important object is to get the casualty's face clear to prevent suffocation by dust. Any essential first aid would be given now. The leader finds that the casualty is pinned down by a girder sticking out from the reinforced concrete floor above her. This floor will have to be lifted by means of a jack and lever. Her face is left clear as long as possible, but when the floor is to be lifted, the face should be protected from dust by a cloth with a steel helmet on top and a board to keep off the heavier debris. Meanwhile, a strong beam has been placed under the concrete and over the jack, so that as the jack is raised, the concrete will be levered up. The lifting is done very carefully, but this particular job can't be packed because the lower edge of the floor is so close to the casualty. So the jack is left in, whilst the casualty is finally brought out. This film has shown you some of the problems that crop up in debris clearance, but it's not meant to replace practical training. You can't go far wrong if you remember these main points. 1. Work to a proper plan. 2. Don't walk on the debris. 3. Use picks and shovels carefully. 4. Never drag out large pieces of timber or girders which don't pull away easily.